Story number 1. Closing shift. I took the night shift because it paid more. That's really all it was. I wasn't some thrill seeker or night owl. Rent was creeping up, and the club needed someone who could lock up after the last round of drinks. So, I said yes. It's not as exciting as people think, working at a club. Most nights are just a blur of bass, thudding through your ribs, spilled drinks, and the same tired songs in rotation. People come in, drink too much, flirt too loudly, and then stumble out. Then we clean up, cash out, and head home. I was usually the last one out. The others clocked out after wiping down tables and stacking chairs. I'd do the final walkthrough, count the till, lock the stock room, and kill the lights. The first few weeks were fine, boring even, just me and the silence after the music stopped. Then the notes started showing up. It was small at first, just a sticky note left on the mirror in the staff locker room. He's next. Black ink, neat handwriting. That was it. I figured someone was playing a prank, maybe one of the kitchen guys. We joked around a lot, especially after long shifts. So I laughed it off, crumpled it, and tossed it in the bin. But then the next night, there was another one. The one in red. That night, we'd had this drunk guy in a red hoodie, kept yelling at the DJ, tried to hop over the bar at one point. Security kicked him out. Didn't think much of it. Next night, I heard he got jumped on his way home. A hit and run. Bad one. I didn't connect the two. Not really. Coincidences happen until the third note. Loud girl, high heels. I read it just as I was about to turn off the lights. It sat dead center on the mirror again. Not crooked, not smudged. Like someone had carefully placed it there for me. I hadn't even noticed her during the shift. But when I asked around the next evening, one of the bartenders said, yeah, there was a girl last night. Loud, stumbling, screaming at someone on the phone. She was found unconscious in an alley 2 blocks down. I stopped brushing things off after that. I started watching people more. During shifts, I'd catch myself scanning the crowd, trying to guess who the note might be about. It felt wrong, like I was part of something I didn't understand. I never told anyone. What would I even say? Hey, someone's leaving cryptic death notes in the mirror, and they keep coming true? They'd laugh. Or worse, think I was losing it. But I wasn't. I was sleeping fine, eating, living normal hours. Aside from the shift, everything else felt stable, except for this. The notes always came when I was alone. One night, I tried staying in the locker room longer, pretending to leave, then circling back to see if I could catch whoever was leaving them. Nothing. The place was empty, dead, silent. Even the hum of the refrigerator from the bar felt distant. When I walked back in, the note was already on the mirror. Don't try that again. I stared at it for a long time. My reflection looked tired, pale, not scared exactly, just worn down. I didn't tell anyone, but after that, I stopped trying to outsmart it. I'd come in, do my job, read the note if there was one, and go home, like a routine. Until one night, the note changed. You're next. I stood there, holding it between my fingers longer than I should have. It felt heavier somehow, like it was real in a way the others weren't. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Every creak of the floorboards in my apartment made me flinch. My phone buzzed at 2:17 a.m., and I nearly dropped it. Just a spam email. I told myself I was being paranoid. But the next shift, I kept glancing over my shoulder, listening for footsteps that weren't there, checking my phone too often. The note was gone. That night. No message, just my tired face in the mirror. That almost made it worse. I started changing up my routine, leaving early, asking someone to stay behind and help close, even if I didn't need it. No one ever said no. Not at first. But after a while, people stopped volunteering. A couple of the other staff started acting distant. Not rude, just quiet. Like they didn't want to be the last one left with me. One of the bartenders, Mark, pulled me aside one night. "You okay, man? You've been off lately." I said I was fine. He didn't press, just nodded and said, "If you ever need to talk, I'm around." He was a good guy, solid, reliable. I should have told him. That weekend he stayed late to help me close. It felt normal again. Two guys chatting about nothing while stacking chairs and wiping down surfaces. He left around 3:10 a.m. The note on the mirror that night, "Thank you." Mark didn't show up for work after that. They said he'd been found in his apartment. No signs of foul play, just gone. No explanation. That was when I stopped talking to anyone at work. Not out of guilt, more like fear that it would follow them too. I tried quitting, handed in my notice. My manager looked surprised, but didn't ask questions, just nodded and said, "All right, you've been solid here." My last shift was supposed to be a Tuesday night. I came in, kept to myself, cleaned, locked up, normal. No note that night. No, "You're next." No message, just silence. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe I'd broken the pattern. But when I walked past the mirror on my way out, I stopped. There was something written, not on a note this time, but directly on the glass, fogged in like a breath had just passed over it. "You don't get to leave." I blinked, rubbed at it. It smeared but didn't go away. I turned around. Empty locker room. Then I heard the back door slam shut. I ran to check. No one there. Just whined outside. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't gone back. I haven't even walked past the place. But the thing is, sometimes when I pass my own mirror at home, I swear I see handwriting in the corner. Just a smudge, a shape, faint, nothing clear. Not yet, but I don't look for too long. I'm scared of what it'll say. Story number 2, the bouncer's list. Working the door at a club isn't exactly glamorous. People think it's all muscle and attitude, but mostly it's watching, standing still for hours, checking IDs, reading faces. You get good at spotting trouble before it walks in. A twitch in the eye, someone sweating too much, a weird smile that doesn't match the eyes. You just know. I started bouncing at a place called Orbit. Mid-sized, dim lighting, neon sign with a flickering O that made it read, "Bit, half the time." It pulled a younger crowd, mostly harmless, just drunk and loud. But every now and then, someone came through the line that made your gut twist. That's when I started keeping the list. It wasn't official or anything, just names I jotted down on a small notepad. I kept in my jacket. First names mostly. Sometimes nicknames or whatever was on their ID. I didn't even know why I started it, just felt like I should. The first name I wrote down was this guy named Colin. He came in with a group. Seemed normal at first, laughing, joking, arm around his girlfriend. But something about his laugh felt forced. I couldn't place it. Later that night, he got aggressive with a bartender, slammed his glass, yelled. Security tossed him. I don't know why, but after my shift, I flipped to the back of my notepad and wrote his name. Colin. Aggressive. Red jacket. The next morning, I heard he was in the hospital. Drunk, driving. Wrapped his car around a pole. No one else got hurt. He lived, but barely. At first I chalked it up to coincidence. People do dumb things when they drink, but it kept happening. Names I wrote down. People who gave me a bad feeling, they'd show up in the news days later. Bar fights, arrests, accidents, always something. I started paying closer attention. The list got longer. Jazz. Stole from the tip jar. Caught on camera. Found unconscious in her apartment the next week. Pills. Not fatal. Just enough to be found. Brent. Grabbed a girl by the arm on the dance floor. Wouldn't let go. Security had to step in. Hit by a motorcycle 2 nights later. The stories weren't big enough for headlines, just whispers, but enough to notice. I didn't tell anyone about the list. It felt weird, like I'd made a deal I didn't remember making. Sometimes I thought about throwing it away, but I didn't. I told myself it was just a way to track problem guests, a safety measure, nothing more. But I knew better. It wasn't until I added Sam's name that it really sank in. Sam was a regular, friendly guy, knew the bartenders by name, always tipped well. We'd chat during smoke breaks. He was harmless. Then one night I saw him shove some guy hard near the restrooms. Quick and quiet. No one else noticed. The guy slipped and cracked his elbow on the sink. Sam just walked off, drink in hand, like nothing happened. I hesitated, but later that night I still wrote his name. Sam. Quiet shove. Bathroom. Not like him. The next morning I saw his photo online. Died in his sleep. Heart failure. He was 32. I stared at my phone for a long time. The coffee went cold in my hand. The notepad sat in my jacket pocket. Heavy. After that, I stopped writing names for a while. Weeks went by. Some rough nights. Sure. But I kept the notepad shut. No names. Just worked my shift. Kept my head down. Then one of the bartenders got hurt. Angie. Someone threw a bottle behind the bar. Caught her in the face. Split her eyebrow. Blood everywhere. Security didn't catch who did it. No cameras in that part of the bar. Just chaos. I remember her sitting in the back office after, holding a towel to her face, shaking. I wanted to say something. I didn't. That night I wrote down a name again, just a first name. Some guy who had been acting twitchy at the bar. I couldn't even be sure it was him, but I wrote it. The next day, I heard someone had been arrested nearby for attacking a gas station clerk. Same description. It felt like a release, like the list wanted something, and I gave it what it needed. I started writing again, not every night, only when it felt right. Then one night I joked about it. It was slow. Rainy Thursday, barely any line. One of the new guys, Devin, was hanging around. Young, cocky, always asking dumb questions. "You keep track of all the weirdos?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Got a death list and everything." He laughed. "No, seriously," I added, half smiling. "People I write down end up in some kind of trouble." Devin's grin faded a little. "Like a curse? More like karma." He raised an eyebrow. "Add me then. Let's see what happens." I didn't laugh, but when he walked off, I wrote his name anyway. Devin. Asked for it. It felt like a joke until he didn't show up for work 3 days later. They said he'd gotten in a fight at another club. Someone hit him with a bottle. He was in the hospital. Not critical, but enough to keep him out a while. I didn't tell anyone. I just stopped carrying the notepad. Den dun gent matter ber. The name still came to me, in my head, while checking IDs, while wiping down tables like a quiet voice pointing. Him, her, that one. I stopped resisting. I kept the list in my phone now. Hidden in a notes app, folder, labeled groceries. The bouncer started calling me the vault. Said I remembered every face, every incident. They had no idea. Then came the night I added myself. I don't even know why. I hadn't done anything wrong. No fights, no mistakes. But something felt off. It was a quiet night. The music sounded distant, lights flickering more than usual. No rain, but the air smelled like wet cement. I felt watched, not by the crowd, but by something behind them, like the room itself was aware of me. So I opened the app and typed, me, 2:47 a.m., just because. That was a week ago. Nothing's happened. But every time I walk past a mirror now, I catch my reflection turning just a little slower than I do. And sometimes when I check the list, there's one more entry. No name, just a time. Tonight's time. Story number 3. The basement door. I started working at the club about 4 months ago. Nothing fancy, just a mid-sized place tucked between an old bookstore and a gym that never seemed open. We opened 5 nights a week, played house music loud enough to make your ears ring, and served overpriced drinks to people trying to forget their workdays. I was hired as a barback, mostly stocking liquor, hauling boxes, and helping bartenders when it got busy. It wasn't bad. I liked the quiet parts of the job, the parts in the back, away from the flashing lights and drunk laughter. There's a basement under the club where we keep the liquor crates and spare supplies. You get used to the creak in the stairs and the damp, musty smell that clings to everything down there. The bulbs flicker sometimes, and the concrete floor always feels colder than it should, even in summer. In the corner of the basement, past the storage racks, there's a heavy steel door. I noticed it on my second night while restocking rum. It didn't look like part of the original building, more industrial, like something you'd see in a boiler room. Thick hinges, no handle, just a flat metal surface, with a keyhole at waist height. I asked about it once. "Don't worry about that door," Manny, the floor manager, said. "It stays locked." I waited for him to add something else, some reason, but he didn't. Just gave me a half shrug and moved on. So I didn't ask again. Still, I noticed little things, like how nobody ever walked near it, even when the racks were full, or how, when someone dropped a bottle and it rolled that way, they'd just leave it until morning. No one ever opened it. No one even touched it. After a few weeks, I started working more closing shifts, just me and one of the bartenders mostly. We'd wipe down the counters, count the register, and lock up. I go down to the basement to double-check inventory before heading out. That's when I started hearing it. Soft sounds. Nothing clear, more like movement. A faint scrape or shuffle, like a box sliding across the floor behind the steel door. I stood still, held my breath. It stopped. I told myself it was the building settling. Old pipes, maybe rats, but it kept happening. Not every night, just some, random, no pattern, no rhythm. One night, I brought it up again. "You ever hear anything down there?" I asked Alicia, the bartender. "Like behind the door?" She looked up from counting tips. "Which door?" "In the basement. That metal one in the back." She paused, then looked away. "No." It wasn't just the answer. It was the pause. The way her tone went flat, careful. That's when I stopped mentioning it to anyone. The next time I heard it, I stayed longer. I set the crate down, stood still, and listened. Shuffle, then a tap, just one. I didn't go closer. Just turned, walked upstairs, and didn't look back. But it stuck with me. I'd think about it while standing behind the bar, pretending to wipe down bottles. I'd catch myself staring at the floor, picturing that door, wondering what could be behind it. Then came the night I stayed late alone. Everyone had cleared out early. Alicia had a migraine and left before midnight. Manny had to run payroll at home. He tossed me the keys and told me to lock up when I was done. The club felt different when it was empty. No lights, no music, just silence and the soft hum of the fridge behind the bar. I went down to do a final stock check. The stairs creaked under my steps, same as always. The air felt heavier that night, like something stale had been stirred. I flicked on the overhead bulb. It buzzed to life, casting shadows across the crates. I moved quickly, counting bottles, scribbling on the clipboard. Tried not to look at the door, but I did. It was open, just a crack, maybe an inch. I froze. My pen tapped the clipboard once, then slipped through my fingers and hit the floor. The door had no handle on this side. It was always flush, always locked. I stepped closer, slow. There was no sound, no breeze, just that open inch and a dark line of black beyond it. I knelt down to see the floor. No scuff marks, no scratch from the door dragging, just stillness. Part of me wanted to shut it, but the other part, the one that had been wondering for weeks, wanted to look inside. I pulled out my phone and turned on the flashlight. The light cut through a narrow space. Concrete floor, dust, a wall, maybe 10 feet in. Looked like storage. Nothing moved. I pushed the door open just enough to step inside. It was colder than the rest of the basement. The kind of cold that settles in your chest. I kept the flashlight low. There were old shelves against the walls, metal, rusted, a broken mop, a mirror, leaning face down. Nothing strange, nothing wrong. But it felt wrong, like I wasn't supposed to be there. I took one step further in. My phone buzzed in my hand. Notification. The sound echoed hard against the walls. I flinched, nearly dropped it. When I looked back at the door, it was closed. I hadn't heard it shut. I walked back fast, nearly tripped, tried to push it open. It didn't budge. I felt around. Still no handle. The air felt tighter now. My breath came shorter. Not panic, not yet, but close. I knocked 3 times. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door, trying to listen for anything outside. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Not mine. Slow, steady, right on the other side of the door. Not moving. Just listening. I stepped back. The light flickered on my phone. A soft click, like a lock turning. Then silence. I stood there for a long time. Eventually, I knocked again. Once. No answer. Then I heard footsteps above. Fast, heavy ones. The door opened. Manny stood there, breathing hard. His face was pale. He didn't say anything, just stepped aside, letting me out. We didn't talk about it. I didn't ask how he knew I was there, or how he got it open. He just locked it again, slid something heavy in front of it. The next day, he gave me new hours, early shifts only. No more basement runs. I didn't argue, but I think about it still. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see that dark room, that slow breath through the steel. I never saw anything inside, but I think it saw me. Story number 4, VIP room 4. I worked at a nightclub downtown for a little over a year. One of those places with velvet ropes, too loud music, and people pretending to be someone they're not. The kind of place where it's more about being seen than having a good time. I was a server, mostly, but I floated around, bartending on some nights, hosting on others. It paid well if you kept your head down and didn't ask too many questions, which I was good at. We had 4 VIP rooms. 3 were always in use. Private booths, curtains, bottle service, the usual. But room 4 was different. It was at the end of a short hallway behind the DJ booth. Door always shut, lights always off. There was no lock on it, but we were told not to go in. Not as a suggestion, like a rule. Leave room 4 alone, our manager said on my first shift. It's off limits. It's just storage now. But it didn't look like storage. The hallway was cleaned daily, and room 4's door was the only one without scuff marks or fingerprints. It always looked freshly wiped, even when everything else around it was dusty. After a while, I stopped thinking about it. Busy nights don't leave much room for curiosity. Then, one Thursday, something odd happened. I was restocking champagne in room 2 when I heard laughter coming from the end of the hall. Not loud, more like a low chuckle. A man's voice. I stepped out and looked down. Room 4's door was slightly open. Not wide, just a sliver. Enough to see a faint flicker of light from inside. I hesitated. Then Manny, our head of security, appeared out of nowhere and shut it hard. No glance at me, just turned the lock and walked away. Later that night, I asked the bartender about it. "Don't worry about room 4, she said, without even pausing in her pour. Seriously. The thing is, it wasn't just that night. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things. A glass of champagne would be missing from the cart after restocking, even though I hadn't served anyone yet. Lights would flicker in that hallway when I walked by. One time, I passed by room 4 and heard music. Slow, older jazz. Not the kind of thing we played in the club. When I doubled back, it was silent, and the hallway was cold. Colder than the rest of the club, which was already blasting air conditioning. It started to bother me. So, one night after closing, I stayed behind, said I'd do a final sweep. The music had stopped. Everyone had left. I walked down to room 4 with a flashlight in one hand and the key in the other. I didn't know why I took it. Maybe I just wanted to see if there was something to all of this. The key slid in easily. The door creaked open. Inside, it was clean. Not dusty. Not messy. Clean. A small round table sat in the middle with 4 chairs around it, all facing inward. A single glass sat on the table. No bottles, no napkins, no menus, and a candle, half burnt, unlit. The walls were dark, deep burgundy maybe, and there were no mirrors, no speakers, no decorations, just that table, those chairs, and the faint scent of something floral and old like wilted roses. I stepped in, the door swung closed behind me. Not all the way, just enough to muffle the noise from the hallway. I stood there, listening. There was nothing. I walked around the table once. The chairs looked new, untouched. But something about the air felt used, like someone had just been there. I didn't stay long. I backed out slowly and shut the door. Locked it again. Made sure. Then I went home. That night I dreamed of the room, only this time there were people in it. 4 of them. Faces I didn't recognize. They sat in the chairs, perfectly still, staring at each other. No one spoke. But in the dream, I could hear something. A soft hum. And I knew, somehow, that they weren't really people anymore. When I woke up, the scent from the room was still in my nose. That faint, old flower smell. It didn't go away. Over the next few days, more small things happened. Other servers mentioned drinks going missing. One swore she saw someone walk into the hallway but never come out. Another said her phone picked up a weird reflection in the mirror when she passed room 4, like someone standing behind her, even though she was alone. I didn't say anything. None of us did. But we all avoided that hallway now, except one guy, Jake, new bartender, young, curious, too confident. He'd only been with us a week when he mentioned the room. "What's the deal with room 4?" he asked during setup. No one answered. He laughed. "Come on, you're all messing with me. What, it's haunted or something?" Someone told him to shut up. I don't remember who, but we all looked away. That night, he stayed late to clean up, and he didn't show up the next day. We figured he bailed. Couldn't handle the pace. People came and went all the time, until someone checked the camera feed. There's no camera in the hallway, but one outside caught him walking toward it around 2:30 a.m. He never came back out. His stuff was still in his locker. His last text said, "You guys are paranoid. It's just a room." We never saw him again. Management didn't make a fuss. Quietly replaced him. Room 4 stayed locked. But a few nights later, I was doing inventory. And when I walked past the room, the door was open again. This time I didn't go in, but I looked. The candle on the table was lit, and there were 5 chairs, not 4. I haven't worked there in months. But sometimes I still think about that room, and I still smell that faint, wilted rose scent when I pass certain places, like it followed me, like it knows my name. Story number 5, the girl in the restroom. It was just another Friday night shift. I've worked at the club for a while now, mostly at the front, scanning IDs and checking bags, but sometimes they ask me to float, help where needed. That night, I was helping with bathroom checks and light cleanup. Not the most exciting thing, but it gets me away from the noise of the speakers and the rowdy crowd. The women's restroom is at the far end of the hallway, right past the coat check. It's dim back there, quieter than the rest of the building. The fluorescent light above the door hums faintly, and it flickers every few seconds like it can't decide whether to stay on or off. I always found it a little off down there. Not creepy exactly, just detached, like that part of the club doesn't really belong to the rest of it. Anyway, sometime around 1:30 a.m., I went in to check if everything was stocked. Toilet paper, soap, paper towels, simple stuff. The restroom was empty when I walked in, just the low whir of the fan and the occasional muffled thud from the music upstairs. I was halfway through refilling the paper towels when I heard it. Crying, soft and quiet, coming from the last stall. At first, I thought someone was just having a bad night. Happens all the time. Breakups, fights with friends, someone drinking too much and falling apart for no reason at all. "Hey," I called out gently. "You okay in there?" No answer. The crying didn't stop, though. Just stayed steady, soft. I walked closer. There were 5 stalls. The last one was closed. I knelt slightly and looked under the door. I saw black boots. Still, not shaking, not moving, just planted there, toes pointed forward. Something about the way they were positioned made me stop. It was too still. "Do you need help?" I asked, more cautious now. The crying stopped. That silence was worse than the sound. It didn't fade out, didn't trail off. It just cut. I stood there waiting for some response, maybe a sniff, the rustle of movement, anything. Nothing. I took a step back. "I'll send someone in, okay?" I said. My voice didn't sound like mine. I left the restroom, still holding the paper towel roll, stood in the hallway for a few seconds, heart thumping a little faster than before. Then I told Melissa, one of the floor managers. She raised an eyebrow when I told her, "You sure there was someone crying?" "Yeah," I said, but when I asked if she was okay, she didn't answer. Melissa sighed. "I'll check." She walked back with me and opened the restroom door. I stayed by the hallway. A few seconds later, she came out. "Nobody's in there," she said. I stared at her. "What?" She shrugged. "All the stalls are open, empty. You probably just heard someone outside." I knew I didn't. I didn't argue, just nodded and went back to restocking behind the bar. Tried to shake it off, but something kept tugging at me. The boots. They were old looking. Black leather, laced high. Not something I'd seen anyone wear that night. Not the usual club outfit. I tried to forget it. But over the next couple of weeks, it happened again. Different staff, different shifts. Someone would say they heard crying in the restroom. Always the last stall. One girl said she saw feet under the door too, but when she went to knock, they were gone, vanished. Another refused to go back in after saying she heard someone whisper her name from inside the stall. It became a quiet thing. No one really talked about it openly, but people avoided going in there alone. I started timing my checks to make sure someone else was nearby, even if it was just a bartender a few steps away. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I asked Tony, one of the older security guys. He's been at the club longer than anyone. He didn't answer right away, just leaned back and looked past me for a moment. Then he said, "You know about that girl, right?" I didn't. "A couple years ago," he said. "She came in with a group, got separated from her friends. Security found her crying in that restroom. Same stall. She said some guy followed her in, but no one ever saw him." "What happened?" Tony shook his head. "She left before the cops arrived. We never saw her again." I asked if he remembered her name. He didn't, just remembered she looked scared. "Like real fear," he said. "Not drunk fear. Not party drama. Real." After that, I kept my distance. I didn't hear the crying again. Not for a while. Then, one night I had to do a solo closing shift. We'd had a small event. Nothing big. Most of the staff left early. I stayed to do the final rounds. I almost skipped the restroom, but routine makes you do dumb things. I walked in with a checklist and a flashlight. Lights were dim again, flickering worse than usual. The fan was off, and I heard it, crying. Not soft this time. Louder, more broken, like someone trying to hold it in and failing. I froze. The last stall door was shut. I took one small step forward, not even sure why. And then, through the sound of the crying, I heard a whisper. Not a word. Just the sound of someone breathing out. Right behind me. I turned around. No one. I didn't even look under the stall this time. I walked out, locked the door from the outside, and sat in the hallway until the sun started rising. Didn't say a word about it. Didn't need to. 2 nights later, a girl I'd never seen before came up to the bar, looking pale. Said her friend had been in the bathroom too long. When we found her, she was sitting on the floor in front of the last stall, crying. She said she saw someone standing inside, but no one came out. We helped her up, calmed her down. She didn't want to stay after they left. I went back in, just stood there, facing the stall door. It was wide open. No sound, no boots, but the mirror had a handprint on it. Small, smudged, upside down. I didn't clean it. I don't check that restroom anymore. And sometimes late at night, when I pass that hallway, I swear I still hear someone crying. But I never stop walking, because now I think it doesn't want help. It just doesn't want to be alone. If that story gave you chills, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more quiet, unsettling horror just like this. Don't forget to check out the other videos appearing on your screen right now. You won't want to miss them. And if you've ever experienced something strange or unexplainable, share your story in the comments below. We're listening.